Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to this, our celebration of Latino music with the sole inspiration that is Classico Latino, this wonderful fusion group who merge the amazing energy and rhythmic vitality of Southern America with a certain classical theme. We'll find out a little bit more about the group later, and Graham and Yvonne, they're sort of co-founders. And this music is certainly unique, and it's very, dare I say it, unknown really on these shores, which is part of one of the reasons for this whole project. It's really important that our pupils gain this understanding of the world at large, and obviously music is a universal language. It's something that we can all identify with, and so I think the term cultural ambassadors is something that Graham holds to, and that's certainly something that the Classico Latino group do as they travel the world with lots of exciting future projects, taking this music with them to embrace the heritage that is Southern American music. So we have an amazing concert for you tonight, which features larger ensembles. We have a couple of items with all of our string players from the prep school and the senior school. We have 9 or 10 solos for you from various string players from year 6 all the way to the upper 6. We have a couple of chamber works for you actually with the musicians of the 5th year, with the slightly complex package of a couple of pupils in school, and then a pupil in Hong Kong, and then another pupil away from the college. So Mr. Freer has been working his magic to unify all of that music together. And then, of course, we have a couple of items from Classico Latino themselves and their lockdown project, which we will be showing you. So, without further ado, this has been an amazing lockdown project, something that we started in January. I'm very grateful to Graham Walker for his support with this and his arrangements, which has made this music come to life at Ardingly. So I do hope you enjoy this evening of probably what might be slightly new and novel musical genres for you, but nonetheless, make sure you've got something to eat, something to drink, and enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side. Well, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am delighted to be joined by Graham and Yvonne, who are the co-founders, I believe, although I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but we'll find out about that in a second, of Classico Latino. And of course, they are the backbone of this inspirational project for Lockdown 3. So, first of all, Graham, it's lovely to see you. How are you doing? First of all,
we're really well, thank you. Yeah, it's bizarre times, and we're kind of looking forward to emerging from the horrors of COVID. But it's all fine. It's all fine.
And whereabouts are you at the moment?
I'm at home. I'm just outside. I'm in a little village just outside Cambridge. Most of my work is in Cambridge, so I live in a little sort of English country village.
Lovely. And how about you, Yvonne? How are you doing, and where are you?
Well, thank you very much. It's good to see you. I'm well. I am in London. Yeah. I live in South London, where I have been in lockdown for God knows how many weeks now, ready to come out.
Yeah.
But all fine. Many thanks.
Good, excellent. And so Classico Latino, Graham, this group, which obviously we've had at the school, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But can you tell us, how did this happen? What's the backstory?
Well, I mean, Ivan will have some comments on this too, but it all started when he and I were both students at St John's College, Cambridge, and I was an undergraduate, and he was a PhD student studying law, and I was, as it appeared to me, I was crossing the bridge one day, the Bridge of Sighs, and this strange-looking man approached me and said, "Would I like to try playing Latin music?" And I thought, well, he's sort of faintly intimidating, so I'd better say yes. And that was the kind of the beginning of it, really. I mean, it was so far outside my experience as a musician. I mean, I was aware that samba existed, and I was aware that tango existed, but anything beyond that, I had no knowledge at all, really. And so I was kind of curious to try it out. And so then we met and we tried some things out, and it was really a journey from there. But I think Ivan might have a different perspective on all that.
All right. My story is this. I studied piano when I was a boy in Colombia, in Bogotá, where I grew up. And I did classical music then. And then when I finished my school, I had the dilemma whether to do law. And everybody in my family are lawyers. And I wanted to do law or to do music. So I went for the law. And I left like the music a little bit on the side. But when I arrived in England to do my master's degree and then the PhD, especially in Cambridge, when I was doing the PhD, I found this incredible musical environment. But everybody was 10 years younger than me, playing 10 times better the musical stuff, the classical music that I stopped playing at the time, until there was this launch at the Master's Lodge where he very kindly welcomed me to play his Stanway and Son piano, which was at the middle of the room. And he said, but you can play with one condition, play a song from your country, which I was not expecting. And to be honest, I didn't play many songs from my country at the time. I am Latin, but I danced the music. I grew up with the music, but I didn't play it much.
Yeah.
And I played it, where I played a couple of pasillos, and everyone was like, what is that? And from that, the Music Society and everything, all the things got involved. And there was the suggestion that perhaps I could invite someone from college to do this, and then I had seen Graham, and it's true, I intercepted Graham somewhere in college, and I asked him to come and rehearse with me, and he was a little puzzled. He says I didn't give him a chance, but maybe I didn't, I don't know. Saying no. And he came to my house, and I remember very vividly, I suppose you do as well, Graham, the first time you came, we had seen each other around because we were from the same year. We arrived in the same year in Cambridge, although I was a graduate student, he was an undergrad. But he came home, and I needed to break the ice. I remember we played some opera stuff, something nothing to do with this. Yeah. It was fine. And then we played Bésame Mucho and El Día Que Me Quieras, some tangos, and we started to talk about it. The nice thing about this, which is I always say, is that, like, for instance, playing Bésame Mucho, we didn't have the score. It was a very basic children's score with the notes were this big, like with showing E, B, D, or whatever it was. That was all we had, because this music was not necessarily written in the Latin American tradition. So Graham was obviously asking, so what's the structure of the song, all the technical questions, and there was no answer for that from the score. So all I said was, this song is about kissing. kissing as if this night was the last. So I said to Graham, well, have you had that situation where you are kissing someone as if that night was the last? And he looked kind of puzzled, like, what does this have to do with the rehearsals? And then I said, well, everything, because that's what you need to say with the cello. And I don't know, I'm grateful to Graham, because in those days there was no way he would understand, and he would have thought that this man is crazy. But
that's exactly what I thought, because it's so Richard, this is so unlike how one runs a rehearsal in a school, or when you're rehearsing a string quartet, you don't talk about kissing very much. But what was interesting, I think, from that perspective was how and I think we often forget this in classical music, that the notes are, if you like, they're like the vehicle for getting to the soul and the core of the music. And what was immediately clear in Latin music was that vehicle, if you like, the curtain is kind of thinner. You can get through to the soul of the music more quickly. Yeah, it's more direct.
What is remarkable as well is that, of course, Bésame Mucho, everyone would have a giggle about the kissing, but the kissing is not relevant. What is relevant in this song is the kissing, but it's a goodbye kiss. It's a sad song. It's a goodbye. It's a farewell. Yeah. So I surprised me that then Graham caught the idea, and then, of course, with the cello, with the sound of the cello like a lament, it sounded beautiful. So we used that same dynamic when one day we announced we're going to play a Master's Lodge concert. And everybody was like, what? Because, of course, we looked so different. People would probably thought, do they have to say anything to one another, let alone to play a concert? And we did the same thing. And I tell you, it was an incredible first experience for us, performing in this very academic environment with all this passionate music and all the messages behind.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because a number of reasons, but I had a kind of reputation, I guess, of being quite a sort of straightforwardly classical musician. I was quite sort of English and reserved, and the idea of my playing tangos was kind of laughable almost. Here we are, so 20 years later, and it was, as I say, it was the beginning of a remarkable kind of education for me as well, which is one of the reasons that I'm so excited that we can kind of share that with others.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we'll get onto the educational side of things a bit later. It's been an amazing project. So just very briefly, before we talk about your first item, very briefly then, Graham, you sort of this experience of this fusion music, if you want to, for want of a better kind of academic description, where's it kind of seen you go in the world? What kind of adventures have you had with it? With Classico Latino?
Well, some remarkable things. I mean, there's been the if you like, the cultural adventure of the kind of learning process, but also, I remember the very first time I went to Colombia, I think 2006 it was, and we played in the Opera House in Bogota, and it was, it was I remember the first time that I had to go on the radio, just at the last minute, and suddenly you've got to talk in Spanish, without preparing anything, and there've been some amazing experiences in Colombia, in particular. There's this amazing festival, the Montañas Festival, where we've been several times, which is a kind of festival of the, if you like, it's the most, how would you describe it, Ivan? It's the Andean music, which it has a kind of reputation of being, it's almost the music of the elite.
Yeah, it's like the temple of Andean music. It's really for the pundits, or the ones who know this stuff.
Yeah. And the idea of us going there, it was the first time they'd ever had a British group to go.
Sure.
If you can imagine, here in the UK, it's an interesting concept. But if I go as a British guy to Colombia and play Colombian music, that could go very spectacularly wrong.
If I may, I have three things I would like to say about your question. One is our going around the world was our first tour outside the UK in Switzerland. Where we played, and the Swiss can be very reserved people, and we started to play all this thing, and they opened up and they fed us and gave us a lot to drink, and it was incredible. And we realized, this reached the human side of people. Doesn't matter your culture. And then when we go to South America, especially to Colombia, to this festival, which was incredible, which was scary, even for me, because if we play a bambuco or a pasillo, you may say here, what is that? And if we do something which is not technically correct, we may get away with that because nobody would know there. But this is a competition. It's just super serious. And the response was emotional. And there were two moments. One is Graham decided to compose a pasillo, which is an Andean rhythm variation of the waltz, which was also daring to do that in that setting. And when he announced the pasillo, and he said this was something he had composed, we haven't played one note, and we already have like a 1 minute ovation. Whoa! This kind of thing. Yeah. And the last one is when after that, the panel of experts decides, because we were not competing, we were just international guests, but still they decided to award Graham a prize for as best Colombian composer. I'm broadcast on national television.
That was hilarious.
Amazing.
So, and there are so many
amazing stories. I mean, this is one of the things, certainly at school, one of the great things about music is the experience it gives you, performing either in, the chapel or what have you. But, you do have these opportunities to go elsewhere with your music. So on to music then, Graham, very briefly. You're going to be doing two pieces for us tonight, which I think, right. You prepared in lockdown, if you will. What can you tell us briefly about this first one? I think it's La Comparsa, if my Spanish is vaguely correct.
Yes, La Comparsa. So this is by Ernesto Lecuona, who was one of the iconic Cuban composers, and about the same kind of time as Gershwin was writing. And he was known as the Cuban Gershwin because he, in the same way, he kind of fused jazz and classical, and in his case, sort of Cuban, native Cuban influences. And it's in a rhythm called the danzón, which is very typical of the Cuban tradition and the Latin tradition more generally. And so you can hear the dum ba dum ba da sort of rhythm going on underneath, and you can imagine the band away in the distance, and it's kind of coming towards the town, and then in the middle of the song there's a big party, and then it disappears away again into the distance at the end. So it's called La Comparsa. It's a really beautiful song.
Fantastic. Well, here you go, guys. Here is the innovative group, I'm going to call them, Classico Latino, playing La Comparsa. So we're back to the two maestros, Ivan and Graham here of Classico Latino, and they're just going to give us a little bit more insight, both into their recent experiences, but also actually this project that we've done in lockdown, which has taken a slightly new stance maybe for us. But anyway, that word lockdown, Ivan, I'd be really interested to know what you've been up to over the kind of last, let's say 9 to 12 months or so, both with Classico, but yourself. What have you kind of been up to?
Well, we've been locked up, unfortunately, which is, as for everybody who is in the music business, it's been challenging not to be able to be together and also not to be able to play for the audience. That's tough. That's difficult. Yeah. But we have had to adapt. So we have produced quite a few recordings in lockdown, which have the challenge of the sound, the synchronizations of it, because you have to do it from your own place. But we have learned a lot from this process technically. So we have produced, I don't know, Graham, more than 8-10 songs. I don't know. It's nearly an album already. We have an album of lockdown music. Yeah. Some of them with the trio, playing some of the soothing songs. And the purpose of that has been to provide people, our followers, and which have increased quite a lot because everyone is in lockdown, to some sense of hope. The music still keeps us together. So we have done a few, the three of us, with music like Gracias a la Vida or Colombia, or joyful music. But we also did some with vocalists. There was one song which was very much successful everywhere because it's called Un día regresaré, one day I shall return. It also has this strong message of hope. We also did the Colombian national anthem, which was incredible. Yeah. And it was broadcast on radio stations there because we're very well known there, and that was nice. And now we have a set of collaborations with different artists. Now we are about to start, hopefully soon, a series called Voices of Hope, because that's going to allow us to do collaborate. Because we're an instrumental group, but that doesn't mean we cannot collaborate with singers. And hopefully we'll bring, again, this message of hope, and that we will be together again with vocalists from South America and from here. So we've been quite busy with things.
There's a very kind of uplifting message for the future, which is great. Yeah, and I mean, Graham, just to touch on the sort of educational side of things, obviously we came across you a couple of years ago through our former colleague Jack, who obviously you taught at Cambridge, and you guys came to us for a day and a concert, which was wonderful. But obviously the educational side of things, I think from then slightly moved. So what have you sort of done on that side of things, and why is that important?
Well, we were so inspired by our day up with you, as I say, two years ago, and it just kind of got my mind working. Actually, this is something where we can really we can share the love of this music, and as I was saying before, act as sort of cultural ambassadors to kind of share this remarkable cultural heritage, which is so unknown in this country, and use it as a way to sort of broaden musical horizons with developing musicians. And so I've been writing arrangements of some of our kind of standard repertoire, which is all the classic songs from across Latin America, specifically arranged for string players of a kind of intermediate level. And I was absolutely thrilled when you guys got involved, and I have sort of tried these things out and road tested them. So this is these are the first times these arrangements have ever been heard. Yeah. And as an arranger, that's a really exciting thing, and it's wonderful to see it all kind of coming to life.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic thing. As I should have said this at the start to everyone. Of course, Graham has made all of these arrangements for all of the children, which has been wonderful. So, whilst of course it's been our delight to sort of trial them and what have you, it's been great to have them at our door, which has been fantastic. And just before I turn to Ivan about the final piece, Graham, what does the future kind of hold for Classico? What do you think? What have you got in the sort of immediate pipeline, or have you got any sort of larger scale ambitions?
Well, there are various projects we're looking at for the future. We're thinking about returning to Abbey Road. We had our third album was recorded there, which was a really exciting collaboration with lots of different artists. So we're considering a return with a kind of particularly Colombian theme. There's a Caribbean Nights album that we're mulling over. The Voices of Hope, of course, that Ivan was mentioning. There are various projects that we're thinking about. It's just sort of lining them all up.
Perhaps it's worth mentioning here, Graham, that we've been, let's say, cooking a tour in the US, And the US is it's a very curious market, and we had a sort of press campaign, publicity campaign in the US for the first time at the end of the year, and it was remarkable. I mean, the Americans loved the whole thing. It's really remarkable. So we may, when everything is open again, organize a tour there, because I think he's going to be very successful there.
Fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like a lot to be working on. Absolutely. I mean, one thing lockdown has done is given time for, crazy ideas, as I call them. But Ivan, just to finish with you then, so the second piece that you played for us, we've heard a couple of times already this evening, Moliendo Café. What can you tell us a bit about that?
Moliendo Café is a Venezuelan song by Hugo Blanco. It's for us has a special meaning because it was like the first sort of tropical rhythm song we played, because we had been playing a lot of Andean music, which is closer to the European ways of you play like waltzes and things. Here the rhythm kicks in. It's about grinding coffee, which is also very relatable to a lot of countries that we have a close relationship with. And it also allows for the arrangement to go equally tropical, which is a challenge, and also credit here to Graham, because producing an arrangement for that, I put the piano part very Latin and all that, but then what do you do with the strings? And you can do something that sounds very Brahms or Bach, I don't know. But here the challenge is to make it sound still grinding coffee from Venezuela, but with the strings. So that was our first song, and it opened the way to what is now Havana Classic, our album in Cuba. And it's such a wonderful song, rhythmical. If you want, you can add vocals, you can have the quartet. It's an incredible song, and it has accompanied us in incredible, memorable occasions.
Yeah, certainly when you guys came a couple of years ago, that was one of the iconic tunes I remembered. So, Graham, Ivan, thank you so much for joining me. And special mention as well to Angela, your agent, who's been brilliant to work with as well. So, Graham, thank you for your arrangement and your time, and the workshops, of course, that you've done this week, which has been brilliant. So, guys, enjoy this. Moliendo Café by the gurus themselves. So enjoy that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my home. This is a home session of Classico Latino and its special guests. So this is my house, so you're all welcome.
It's fantastic to be back on In Tune, albeit, as Ivan says, in the comfort of his house rather than in the studio at Broadcasting House. And we're here with the wonderful Basha and Omar on violin, Ivan on piano and Graham playing the cello, and we've got Ray and Wilma on percussion and bass. And we've got a fantastic Venezuelan song for you, Moliendo Café, which means grinding coffee.
Well, what a splendid way to finish this celebration of music, and what an amazing experience for our children to come back into the chapel and play music of such vitality as one of their first experiences coming out of the lockdown. So my first thanks, of course, has to go to the children for their dedication with this project. It's something that we have done nearly entirely online through the fairly dark months of January and February. So thank you very much to all of the pupils that made this happen. And of course I must thank as well the wonderful staff that have made this event happen, both in terms of directing and performing. Mr. Pozzuto, Miss GB, Miss Birch, all her accompanying, Miss Rainbird as well for a superb performance, and Mr. Smith for bringing it all together. So thank you very much. I'm very indebted to work with such a talented and dedicated team. Mr. Freer, as always, works his wizardry, so thank you so much, Ben, for everything you've done. But the final saying, of course, must go to Classico Latino, who have really worked with the idea of education. A lot of professional music groups are slightly one-track minded in their output, and as Yvonne said earlier on a call with me, you can't just please the critic, you've got to please the kids. And I'm hoping that these arrangements that Graham has made have done that and provided them with something new, different, and a very invaluable, learning experience as they move forward with their musical studies. So thank you very much to everyone at Classico Latino for your support with this. They are a wonderful group, and as I do hope that we will see them in 2022, obviously COVID permitting. At this point, they have a huge amount of activities and projects in the pipeline, but also historically as well. So please do go and explore their wonderful musicianship further. They do have a very prominent YouTube channel, so do go into YouTube, type in Classico Latino, and you will find some amazing experiences. Obviously, if you're a Spotify fan, they're on there as well. So do go and delve into their amazing archive of recordings, videos and performances. There is genuinely something for everyone there with their ensemble singers, cellists, rhythm sections, and obviously Yvonne's amazing flamboyance and skill on the piano. So there is genuinely something for everyone, which is one of the reasons they're so kind of excitable and vibrant as a group. So I'd like to thank them and Graham and Angela for your support, and wish you very well as hopefully the lockdown eases and therefore the musicians and the industry can try and get back to something like normal. So that's your lot for tonight, guys. Something totally different. We are out of lockdown, but Boris's mantra still stays. I don't think he's listened to me at all. But anyway, something along the lines of be safe, stay safe, keep safe. Bye for now.